Bundy is in jail in this building at this time, and if the authorities have anything to say about it, he will probably be there for some time.
It all started with a routine traffic stop, but what the officer found inside that car would unravel one of the most disturbing crime sprees America had ever seen. It was a quiet night in Utah, August 1975, when Sergeant Bob Hayward spotted a tan Volkswagen Beetle behaving strangely. The driver tried to escape, but once Hayward pulled him over, the contents of that car, rope, handcuffs, a ski mask, hinted at something far darker, lurking beneath the surface. After that late-night traffic stop in Utah, things started falling into place, and fast. Sergeant Bob Hayward had unknowingly stopped one of the most dangerous men in America, and not just a stranger with weird tools in his car. After Bundy was taken into custody, Hayward told his brother, a law enforcement officer, everything. That's when things got interesting. In Utah, detectives began to piece things together. The car Hayward had pulled over that evening was a tan Volkswagen Beetle, and they remembered stories from Washington State about a man named Bundy driving it. At the time, young women had been disappearing in Washington, one after another, vanishing without a trace. Witnesses had often described seeing a man next to his car, his arm in a sling, asking for help. Now they had someone in jail who matched that exact description. But the real turning point came thanks to one brave woman, Carol Duranj. Carol had narrowly escaped a kidnapping attempt in Utah in November 1974.
A man approached me and said, "Is your license plate KAD 032?" And I said yes, and he introduced himself as Officer Roseland. And he said that someone had been caught trying to break into my car.
And then this is where we came out of right here and walked through this parking lot.
I told him there was nothing missing, and he asked me if I would come with him over to the substation because they were holding the man that had tried to break into my car.
That's where he said the substation was.
I asked him at that time if I could see a badge or some kind of identification, and he promptly just flipped out his wallet and showed me a badge. I thought it was a little strange, but I just thought, maybe he's off duty, undercover. It occurred to me, that he wasn't who he said he was, and that something really bad was going to happen. And he grabbed my wrist and put a handcuff on my left wrist. I knew he was going to kill me.
Investigators discovered that the ski mask, rope, handcuffs, and crowbar that had been found in Bundy's car matched those that were used in the attempted kidnapping of Carol Duranj. Even Bundy's own girlfriend, Liz Klupfer, had gone to the police back in 1974. She had an impression that her charming boyfriend, a law student, had a darker side. Although her concerns were not taken seriously at the time, everything now made sense. The world was about to find out how terrible Ted Bundy's secret life truly was. Ted Bundy was ultimately put on trial for the horrific kidnapping of Carol Duranj in Utah in February 1976. This case was unique because Carol had escaped, unlike many of his victims, and her courageous testimony would be crucial in bringing him to justice. Fast forward to the 1976 trial. Carol bravely testified in court, telling the jury exactly what happened that night. The handcuffs, ski mask, and rope found in Bundy's car served as physical evidence that supported her account. Overconfident, Bundy decided to represent himself in the trial, hoping that his charisma could convince the judges of his innocence. But this time, no amount of smooth talking could save him. The jury saw right through him. They found Bundy guilty of aggravated kidnapping. He was sentenced to 1 to 15 years in prison, his first real punishment, though far from the justice his other victims deserved. But the walls were finally starting to close in. While Ted Bundy sat in prison for kidnapping Carol Duranj, the world had barely started to understand the true extent of his dark, twisted nature. His crimes were far more heinous than most people could even imagine.
A search is underway in the Utah countryside for the bodies of victims of serial killer Ted Bundy.
Some of the bones will go to the medical examiner's office, but Sheriff Buchanan says unless they come up with something definite, this was the last official search.
It all began in Washington, where Bundy first started looking for victims. Young women, often college students, were his main targets. They would often disappear without a trace. Many of them were last seen near parking lots, libraries, or campuses. Bundy had a clever way of gaining their trust. He would pretend to be injured, wearing a fake cast or sling, and ask for help carrying books or loading something into his car. Once they were close enough, he would overpower them, and they'd never be seen alive again. But it wasn't just kidnapping. Bundy committed ruthless and extremely disturbing crimes. He didn't just kill his victims, he mutilated them. In many cases, he returned to the bodies long after they were dead. It's been reported that he would groom the corpses, apply makeup, and even engage in necrophilia, one of the most chilling aspects of his crimes. Also, he preserved mementos, such as heads or hair, which served as reminders of his dominance over his victims. When investigators found grave sites on Taylor Mountain, south of Seattle, in March 1975, the actual horror of Bundy's acts became even more evident. When detectives found grave sites on Taylor Mountain, south of Seattle, in March 1975, the true horror of Bundy's acts became even more stark. This distant wooded area was one of his dumping grounds, where the remains of several missing women were found. The scene was horrific, with skulls damaged, bones all over the place, and evidence of the abuse these young ladies had suffered. Karen Sparks, one of the few survivors, shared a tragic story. Bundy broke into her basement apartment and viciously attacked her while she slept. He beat her with a metal rod from her bed and sexually assaulted her with a speculum, a medical tool, causing severe internal injuries. Karen survived the incident, but her brain was permanently damaged.
I was attacked and left for dead. I was living in the U District, studying political science. He came into my home, took a bed frame off of my bed, and smashed my skull. Then he used probably the same bed frame, smashed it into my vagina and into my bladder. My bladder was totally split, so it was horrible.
This was the real Bundy, not just a charming law student, but a cold-blooded predator, hiding behind a mask of normalcy. Many believe Ted Bundy's reign of terror was finally ended after he was sentenced to prison for kidnapping. But Bundy wasn't done yet. His story became even more unbelievable and terrifying after what went on. Bundy was sent to a prison in Glenwood Springs, Colorado by December 1977. He secretly plotted his next, even more daring escape there. He sawed a hole in his detention cell's ceiling for months. He even lost weight on purpose so he could fit through the small opening. He then crept through the ceiling late one night, went to the jailer's apartment, changed, and left through the front door.
Before his escape, Ted Bundy had been out of his cell exploring that overhead crawl space he escaped through. Jail officials knew about that, and they did nothing about it. Now, Bundy was to go on trial Monday for the murder of a woman near Aspen. Over the weekend, he escaped from his jail cell by squeezing through a small hole in the ceiling. In Denver, KOA-TV says it is confirmed that other inmates had heard Bundy crawling around above the ceiling at times before his escape. The inmates told jailers, but nothing was done about it. KOA says Under Sheriff Robert Hart confirms this report. Today, the FBI took over the search and issued a fugitive warrant charging Bundy with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. Agents feel the former Utahn is out of Colorado, possibly out of the country.
Bundy didn't waste any time at all. He went all the way to Tallahassee, Florida, using a fake name in the hopes of blending in with the crowds. But instead of lying low, Bundy went back to his violent ways. He broke into Florida State University's Chi Omega sorority house on January 15th, 1978. What happened there was horrifying. Bundy killed 2 of the 4 women he attacked. Bundy's killing spree continued regardless of several arrests, and the world watched in terror as the nightmare went on. Ted Bundy was back on the run.
The killer came in from the night and then returned to it with an ease that has so far baffled police and left most co-eds here terrified. Blood-stained bed sheets and numerous bags of other evidence were prepared at the Tallahassee Police Department for transfer to the crime lab.
After his spectacular escape from a Colorado prison, nobody was sure of his next plan. But Bundy couldn't hide forever, and this time it was a simple traffic stop that finally ended his reign of terror. It happened on February 15th, 1978, in Pensacola, Florida. Driving a stolen orange Volkswagen Beetle, Bundy was looking for his next victim. Or perhaps he was just trying to avoid being discovered, but his luck was running out. A policeman pulled him over after noticing the strange car. Bundy tried to stay calm as usual. He used a fake name, acted composed, and avoided giving away any details about who he really was. Officers, however, soon realized that something was off. Inside the car, they found stolen credit cards, fake IDs, and even bloodstains that would eventually be connected to the vicious attacks on Florida State University's Chi Omega sorority house. At first, Bundy refused to reveal his identity. For 2 whole days, he kept up the act, lying about his name and where he came from. But the evidence against him continued to mount. The most important clue came from a bite mark he had left on one of the Chi Omega victims. When forensic experts matched Bundy's teeth, it was a major breakthrough that linked him to the crime. Bundy eventually realized that he could no longer continue the lies. He ultimately revealed his true identity, Theodore Robert Bundy. After being detained for 2 days, the police now had one of America's most wanted men in their hands.
Pensacola authorities are still assessing the impact of having caught one of the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives. The identification of the mystery man as Theodore Robert Bundy hit law officials like a bombshell. Bundy was being sought for questioning in the deaths of at least 38 women from Seattle, Washington to Tallahassee, Florida, and was just last week placed on the FBI's 10 most wanted list.
Ted Bundy's final trials were unlike anything the public had seen. Nationally televised, they revealed Bundy's disturbing arrogance, as well as the shocking details of his murders. Choosing to represent himself, Bundy turned the courtroom into a twisted stage, flirting with reporters and mocking the justice system. But witness after witness destroyed the charming facade he tried to keep up. And the evidence was indisputable, especially the bite mark from the Chi Omega murders. In 1979, Bundy was sentenced to death for his Florida crimes. On January 24, 1989, he was put to death in an electric chair.
A judge in Miami today followed the jury's recommendation and sentenced Theodore Bundy to die in the electric chair for the murder of 2 co-eds. Bundy is the 136th person under death sentence in Florida.
His admissions and interviews gained notoriety and were terrifying case studies for criminologists seeking to probe the darkest corners of the human psyche. That was all for today. So, what was the detail that sent shivers down your spine? Let us know in the comments below. Do not forget to like and subscribe to the Suspense Room to unlock more stories.